What's going on, everybody? This is another episode, season two of the Next Up podcast. One of us is hopefully next up. The other one already did it. So talk to him. Say what's up, cuz.
What's going on, people? It's your boy, IFBB Pro, Colin coming at you.
I love it. No longer cousin Creamy. He's IFBB Pro Colin Marco. Fuck yeah.
My entire
This is what we
personality.
needed. This is what we needed. All right. So today we're gonna switch this up a little bit, and we're pretty much gonna have Colin interview me about prep. Um, Mainly I told him like talking about training, but then this morning while we were on FaceTime, I pretty much just took the wheels off and said, "Yo, ask whatever you want. I don't really care. I'm be as open as possible." So, with that said, Colin, let's run it.
Yeah, so obviously we're gonna start with training. Training wise, from off season into your prep season, what changed? What stayed the same? What was one thing you wish you did differently moving into this prep or moving through the prep?
All right, cool. So let's start with off-season training. Off-season training was for the first time since I was probably like 21, high volume, very high volume. Um, 4 to 5 sets of every movement, 5 to 6 sets, or 5 to 6 exercises per body part, except arms. Arms are always like 2 to 3. But like, I think there was a point I was doing like 31 set leg days. I think my back days were like 26 sets, something like that. Now, once I went into prep, I kind of knew already that my body does not like higher reps. Like over extended periods of time. I just get to a point where like I can't control it anymore. Um, I get exhausted by like rep 8. So I looked at my program and I said, all right, based off of what I look like right now, where what needs to grow, what needs to stay full, and what doesn't, and or what can almost take a backseat in the time. This is also with the idea that we were going to be around that weight cap. So like not any true growing had to happen, but things needed to stay full. My legs first and foremost, because last prep in Universe 2024, my legs just disappeared in the last like 6 weeks. Just completely disappeared. I was training them once every 5 to 6 days. But I was training them super low volume. So like there wasn't a desire for it to be volumized, we'll say. And then second, my upper body when I'm full is I don't want to say overwhelming because I'm not overwhelming. I'm not even top three, but like it has a very,
Comparison.
it shapes me. It shapes me very well. It provides that structure and that shape that like my pop comes from. But that can also get very flat in the prep where my arms look stringy, my chest is flat, and my back just always looks how my back does. So I realized I could take some volume from my back and reallocate it towards the other body parts. But the thing that would save me is staying strong, keeping loads heavy, and then doing maybe a back offset where I'm going a little bit higher volume. So I knocked my volume down to like 1 or 2 sets per compound exercise. I think hacks was one, pendulum squats might have been two, leg press might have been two, chest pressing might have been two. Everything was kind of like 1 to 2 sets. But my accessory movements, 3 sets, 4 sets, higher volume, just pump blood into it. So I was doing 4 or 5 sets of leg extension, one of which would probably be a warm up. The other four would be to failure. Um, Chest flies, I was still going to failure like 4 sets. So that's how I kind of changed. The rest of the question, I think you said like, what would I do differently now?
Yeah.
In that last 2 weeks of off season, where I was kind of beat up and my knees hurt, my hips hurt, my elbow hurt, I probably would have switched to that then to just set a baseline of like a little bit lower volume, and higher frequency, and worked my way, almost worked my volume up through the first 7 to 8 weeks of prep where body fat can be utilized as an energy store to burn calories, and then allowed myself to just hit that number, stay there, and then ride out the rest of the prep. So I would have started a little bit lower volume on like the accessory stuff because I was dealing with elbow issues. I was dealing with knee issues where I could have kind of just taken the volume back, almost deloaded going into prep.
Right. So moving through, obviously you went from an EU coach now to USA coach. Whereas like everyone in the EU is very much, beat the logbook, all this kinds of stuff, progressive overload, kind of like a Jordan Peters approach. But then someone from the USA is and or was there any sort of difference when it came to quote unquote like beating the logbook? Was it beating the logbook, progressing? Was it at the bare minimum maintaining? What differentiated in, I would say, probably coaching styles or more so training approaches when it came from EU to US?
I'm gonna drop names, I don't care. Um,
That's fine.
Kuba's training style was very logbook based, and I'll tell you the truth, that ruined me in the back end of my prep last year.
I would say physically, like fatigue wise, or like,
Mentally.
okay,
Mentally, because when I went from going 5 plates on a hack squat for 8 with perfect form and tempo to 3 1/4 for 6 by the back end of prep, that ruined my headspace. Absolutely ruined my headspace. Now, knowing I had, and the weird thing is that my program was a bastardization of both Dino and Kuba for prep. Right, there was some high volume, there was some lower, stay strong, beat the logbook type things. But I threw my logbook away as soon as I stopped working with Kuba. I did not record a single number. And the reason I did it is just because I quite literally I couldn't fathom that anymore. I just said, you know what, from the idea of progressive overload is the idea of progressive overstimulus. If I could stimulate muscle tissue on a progressive rate every single time I'm in the gym by doing something that I've never done before or pushing myself to the degree that I was willing to die in the middle of a set, then I was building muscle. And that's where the question that I would ask after every single set to you, to Seta, to whoever I was training with, did that set build muscle?
yeah,
Because if I turned around and I only focused on the logbook, let's just use the example of like a Smith press. 30-degree incline Smith press. I was using 3 plates. And I got 7 reps. The next week, I used 3 plates and I got 8 reps. We progressed. We progressively overloaded. But let's say for the next 4 weeks, I did 3 plates for 8 reps. Did I progressively overload? No, technically
technically,
no. Maybe the form got a little cleaner. Maybe the execution was a little bit different. Maybe the bench was in a different place. Maybe the bar on the damn Smith machine was off. I don't know. But like looking at a logbook like that, you can get in your own head really quickly and be like, this is not working. What's not working? Whereas if I could turn around, I put 3 plates on it this week. I do it for 8 reps. And I watched the video back and it was clean. Well, all right, it was clean. I felt like I can control that. Let's do 3 plates next week and let's get 10. Let's make it a little sloppier. Uh, but on the back offset, I'm just going to stay in the muscle. I'm not coming all the way touching my chest, pausing and locking out. I'm staying in like a 97% range where I'm not all the way in the bottom. I'm not all the way locking out. I'm just staying there. And I'm pumping blood through the tissue. I'm staying in full control. That is going to progressively overstimulate, even though the set before technically wasn't as optimal of a set.
yeah.
So I think that answers the question. Um, of like my philosophy with it. But like, what's the biggest difference is yes, Kuba was very, very logbook centric. The logbook had to change. The logbook had to move up, and I could ruin my headspace for a day if I did not do that. Dino's approach is volume, getting blood in the muscle, turning around and pumping the hell out of it. Um, I just took that as the row caution to the wind and go to failure every single set of every single rep and do everything I could. And that's why I wound up getting hurt.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, all things considered, you always talk about, especially in the off-season setting for you with weight titrating up and, body weight going up and, accumulating just fat and fatigue. Because again, everybody can get stronger in an off-season setting, but it's the matter of staying strong, but also staying healthy. And that's something I know you've kind of dealt with in the past, in which that, once body weight does go up, again, it gets a bit brutal because yes, strength goes through the moon, through the roof, through the moon, through the roof, but
Same
it
thing.
also comes at a cost in which that your body can deteriorate at a much faster rate, regardless of how much food there is in the category or even drugs, for instance. Your recovery aspect is kind of at risk just due to the fact that you're beating the shit out of yourself. And especially for you, you have to deal with a lot of joint issues. You have reconstructed knees. It's something in which that, especially when it comes to legs, it's hard for you to recover, but not due to the sake of muscular, but more so structural. So again, anyone who really looks at this or really listens to this, it's the takeaway I would say is just you want to push yourself to a certain extent in which that you can muscularly fail, but structurally you need to keep yourself intact because at the end of the day, you're gonna build muscle. There's no rush to it. And the faster you rush through workouts through an off season and just kind of rush to progress the logbook is when you kind of put yourself at a risk into having some very life altering injuries and also chronic injuries that will just sit with you for the rest of your life because again we are 20s 30s and this point in time it's all well and good that you're still healthy, but when you're 40 and your knees are in fucking shambles, yeah,
Oh,
you're
we're
gonna
gonna need a knee replacement.
yeah. So again, we move on. But
Well, just to justify some of those statements, right? Me and you have talked about it several times, and most likely on here. I have a problem when it comes to training. Training is not just physical. I'm not just trying to turn around and stimulate muscle tissue. There is a emotional aspect to my training that I go through some shit during it. So it's a matter of I'm gonna follow the plan because I like to follow my plan. But there is a point in which every set I know, hey, this should be the last rep. And then I try to do at least two more.
mhm,
And that two more are the ones that kill me. And my CNS gets fried. I have great recovery tactics. We both know that I am very on top of that. But guess what? I could kill myself in the gym and overtrain my recovery capacity. And I do it on a general weekly basis at peak strength.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and it's again, it's something where person to person you kind of have to know your limits. Obviously with the mental attachment to certain things and aspects in life and training and correlation, it obviously can play a huge role when it comes to, monitoring the amount of output that you can do and really what's recoverable. And then it's to the point, you push yourself to the limits in which that are pretty not recoverable, but you do it anyways. Whether it's an emotional attachment, physical, spiritual, whatever you want to call it. But it's just a matter of, again, putting yourself to the point where, like you said before, did this set grow tissue? Yes. And I wouldn't be so hyper fixated on pushing the logbook just for the sake of, again, every day is differently. Hydration, nutrition, sleep, anything can change. So if you slept like great going into last week's session and, hit all your meals, hit all your steps, did everything great, perfect, fantastic. You lose an hour of sleep because of whatever the case may be, you're probably not going to have the best session. And it's just something that, again, there's so many different aspects that go into it that really people just, they look at the logbook and they kind of just fuck their head up. And like you said, it mentally mess with you. So it's just to the point of knowing there are circumstances in life that can have a certain effect on what you're trying to achieve. But again, it's having that ability to kind of step back and see, okay, I didn't do X, Y, and Z, and this is why I performed the way I did. This is why I didn't progress the logbook. So it's different aspects of that that you have to be mature enough to kind of sit back and look at and in which that, you know, we've grown to the maturity in which that, you know, we can, whether it's looking it through ourselves, through others, asking those questions, because again, it can get frustrating, but you have to be able to take a step back, slow things down a bit, and be like, okay, ask yourself X, Y, and Z. Did you do everything perfectly like you did last week? If your answer is no, then again, you're not going to have the same results. So, but moving from training wise, I kind of want to go diet wise, just to touch on it, because obviously through your off season, you got to how much food? What was your peak diet?
Somewhere around if somewhere around 5,000 calories, somewhere right around there.
So then from peak diet being five something thousand, let's say 5.5K, steadily over a progressive couple months, or even say peak for at least a month or so. Let's just say going into this prep, you're eating a substantial amount of food. From last prep to this prep, obviously I know the differentiation between this one, but when it came to the diet wise, when it came to cardio wise, what was the biggest thing that was so different from last prep to this prep, diet and cardio wise? And again, I'm gonna preface it with I know exactly the differences, but the people don't.
One prep, I use a lot more fat burners than the other.
And you did a lot more cardio than the other two.
Yeah, so this prep 2025, I did a lot of cardio. There was a lot of cardio. There was a lot of digging. And that just goes to show you the power of drugs. That's the prep before that. I was I got the kitchen sink thrown at me in terms of fat burners for most of that prep, and I only did steps, and food was relatively high. If I had a preference, I would rather this prep all over again. I earned this prep. I earned those last 2 weeks between junior nats and universe were earned. All 25 pounds that came off were earned. There was not a single second where I sat there and I was like, oh, this is easy. I was like, yo, this hurts. And I would prefer that every single time because there is something to earning that level of condition. Like my glutes were never in like yours were, right? But I would say towards the end of Universe, they probably were getting close.
Yeah.
Um, my best look for Universe was actually at finals, where I was the fullest I had been. Um, and that was a really, really solid look. Like my glutes were stripped out at that point, but there's just not a lot of pictures from that point. So nobody gets to really see those. But the biggest difference, I mean, food was also like dramatically different. Um, for those who know, for those who don't know, there were times where I had like 40 grams of cream of rice in the morning, 60 grams of whey protein, and that was pretty much it, other than chicken and asparagus the entire rest of the day. Doing 15,000 steps and having 60 minutes of cardio, and literally having sometimes to stop doing cardio because I was going hypo on the Stairmaster. Had to get off, grab some water, take a second, and then get back on. Um, but again, I would prefer this one 100 times over.
Yeah. It obviously the mental side of things, this was a real test to see, you know, the willpower in which to go the lengths that you did. And with that said, for myself, I'm very much on the psychological side of bodybuilding, and I love the mental side of it, and really how much the sport can weigh on someone, or not sport, however you want to put it, but it's how much you're willing to put yourself through to attain said goal. So obviously from last prep, it was very much no cardio, a lot of fat burners, a lot of stuff under the hood was doing the work. And again, not to negate the fact that you didn't do the work, you still hit your steps, you still train like a madman, but there was a bit more, a little too many stimulants, especially when it came to atrophy in the muscle
Mhm.
system, to the skeletal muscle in the body. But regardless, this prep alone, it really tested your willpower and showed you how much did you truly want to do this? Because especially in the conversations we've had leading into universe, there was a good amount. I'm going to say good amount because of someone who's not a food focused individual. You had a lot of cravings and tendencies that obviously you never and indulged in. You never cheated on your diet, but it was something that you never had this moment of human
Yeah,
in you. And
agreed.
that was something that was pretty eye opening for me and how I knew you're in the weeds. But how how hard I'm not really going to say like on a scale from 1 to 10, but like now going through obviously a one prep that was fairly smooth sailing, I would say, just for the sake of diet wise and food and training and all that kind of stuff. And then going through something now where it was brutal every day. You woke up, you knew you were in the shit. And obviously you said you would take this over last prep anytime. But what would you possibly suggest your coach and or personally do differently to expedite the process, make it a bit easier, whether it's a starting point, whether it's a longer prep for the sake of diet breaks? Like, would there be anything that you would do differently in the sake of just maintaining a more mentally stable environment, especially close as you get closer to the show?
Absolutely. I'd stay leaner. I'd be leaner in the off season, leaner to start prep. Hey, um, because I think that I just took it a little too far. And I did it to myself more than my coach doing it to me. The diet for the last like 10 weeks didn't really change at the end of off season. But when you turn around and you can eat like I can eat, where there is no emotional attachment to food, and you know that you've only had one meal that day and it's time to go to all you can eat sushi, I'm putting down 100 pieces with relative ease. You've seen it in person that like I could go from not eating the entire day to eating everything in sight and be fine. So I did it to myself. Like right now, I am 22 days post show, something along those lines. And like I had the food bonanza the day after the show, or the day of the show that night. The day after, I kind of just tried to clear out as much of the like peak week stuff as possible, more than anything else, and had some sushi. My weight ballooned up, not really worried about all that at the time. Um, Definitely towards the end of that week, I was mentally a little fried from that. And the week after, I think I was fried too. This is the first week that I've actually kind of felt good about it. Um, but just like I did it to myself because of all you could eat sushis and then the ice cream or whatever I was getting afterwards. I might have taken my average calories from 5,000 to 7,000 that week
Yeah.
just from that day alone. So I did it to myself this year, like I was kind of trying to get to. I had that 2 days where I kind of ate whatever, and I haven't touched anything since. I'm not looking forward to cheat meals whenever the cheat meals come. I did kind of want to go back to the whole not bodybuilding thing, but I realized that's just not a good idea for me. So the better idea is kind of to eat 3 to 4 meals beforehand, and then realistically probably go to a place where I have to pay per piece as opposed to going to an all you can eat place so that I'm a little more frugal. But realistically, like this go around, the thing that's going to be the biggest change is going to be how I approach this off season. Not even like a super military prep type of thing, but like I am not going to turn around and force feed 7,000 calories in a day or 10,000 calories in a day just because like, oh, you only ate one meal and then trained. Like it's just stupid to keep doing that. I am a grown man now. I don't need to have that food focus when food is always there and like want to eat that much. I'm just going to turn around and try to be more human, I guess. Try to not overindulge. Um, and then almost realistically from the dieting perspective, uh, my refeeds were aggressive. Sometimes they would balloon my weight up pretty high. If they turned around, they were a little bit smaller, I wouldn't have cared. They normally bring me back to life for a good day or two, and then it was back into the suck. But like, I'm fine with the suck. So also probably implement the use of things like retatrutide. Um, I did take SLU, but like actually take SLU, not at the milligrammage or microgrammage I was taking, because the study suggests a lot more. Um, and just realistically utilize some of the peptides that are out there to turn around and facilitate the process. Maybe I don't have to turn around and go into the one meal with 40 grams of cream of rice. Maybe I could have 70. That'd be pretty cool. Maybe I can keep carbs in, three meals as opposed to just having one. Again, that would be pretty cool. It might lessen the suck, but once you're once you're dug out, it don't matter. You have 120 grams of carbs at each meal. It's still gonna suck. So that's what it comes down to. I feel like I rambled on there, but I hope that it all concluded and kind of went full circle.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, again, with the tools that are really in today's day and age of bodybuilding are stuff that, again, people will have their opinions, especially the big one is retatrutide. It's the cop out, the easy way. Shit don't, yeah, sure, it takes the hunger away, but like, bro, when you're 5%, 6% body fat, anything you do sucks. You're still tired. You're still got to train your ass off. You still got to do everything you got to do. Like, it doesn't matter if you're eating God knows how much food. It is what it is. It's a tool. Because guess what? Gear's a tool too. So are people who are enhanced cheating as well? If people who are crushing hunger for the sake of not wanting to lose their mind, is that cheating? And so is gear. So again, I digress. I can go into a whole entire spiel on that one.
See, I've come full circle on that one too because I think I was in that realm of like, well, it's supposed to hurt, it's supposed to suck, and now I sit there and I'm like, well, especially if you're taking Ozempic, it's a different story. You're taking semaglutide, it's a different story. Like that is just an appetite suppressant.
Yeah.
You're just trying to lessen the suck of your appetite. But when it comes to tirzepatide, when it comes to GLP-3, GLP-2, and GLP-3, because we're not supposed to say the other words, right? Um, and their effects on the GIP and the glucagon, respectively, is something that can be extremely beneficial from a health aspect too.
Yeah.
So it's like you ain't taking 200 milligrams of tren to get the health benefits of the cortisol response. You're trying to go for a look there. If you're turning around, you're microdosing something that's significantly under what's being clinically trialed right now for the benefits of your glucagon receptor and your GIP receptors, that's a little bit of a different story there.
Yeah.
That's like taking, an aspirin versus heroin there. Backwards, heroin versus aspirin there, because the trem would be the heroin. But like, yeah, there's a big difference in the pain relief there too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So the one thing I wanted to touch on it. I fucking lost it. It'll come back to me. But for your whole thing now, so obviously we know you're going to take a nice off season. We're going to grow. We're going to put on a shitload of tissue. But the main thing, because I'm going to go back to training just to touch on that again. So is there anything? So we touched on last off season into this prep. Is there something that will be done differently moving forward? Is there going to be, again, is it moving back to higher volume? Is it going to be more of a top set back off? Is there intensifiers? Is there anything specifically that you're going to have to do necessarily for your own personal growth that you've seen through the last off season into this prep season for the sake of, again, something that's, I'd say, a weaker point is your legs. And even going into it again, like you do have a very big frame up top, but now it's a matter of filling in those gaps. So again, when it comes to like on stage, like your chest can flatten out. Is there something you're going to be doing differently training wise in regards to build the tissue moving forward without risking injury?
yeah, 100%. I am not going to scale up the weight quite as fast, pretty much. Um, I'm going to control the weight more so. So like perfect example would be pendulum squats, especially this week. Like The first time I did pendulum squats, right out of the gate, probably like 3 days post show, I tried to do 3 plates on the pendulum squat. I kind of just bottomed into it. I got 4 or 5 reps, and I was like, funny enough, during prep, I would have been happy with this, but right now, I'm not happy with this. I sent you the text and was like, "Yo, should I do a back offset?" And you're like, "Yes, 100%." Yesterday, I did about a plate and a quarter on it and got 15 reps straight across the board pretty much. Don't really know how I maintained that performance because I did fail on every 16th rep, but I held it. So from here, that's going to be the game plan is rinse and repeat that until like realistically I get that up to a reasonably extreme number. If I can get that to 3 plates for 15 reps across 4 sets, well, at that point, I'm probably going to switch back to a top set, back offset, and get really strong at that movement for 4 to 6 weeks, and then rotate back to a higher volume approach and keep maybe not intensifiers on that, but something that's just going to keep more tension in the legs because I do believe that tension is the key, and like how much of a pump you get off of your session is kind of telling to where you're going to grow. For chess, something that I did notice was working really well during the off season, but then kind of lost it towards the back end was pumping the absolute crap out of it with volume. I didn't have to be strong. I had to just move that weight until I couldn't move it. And if I did 10, 15 sets of that, that was where the money spot was, where I started to hurt myself, was where I take the 150-pound dumbbells and run that for 10 reps, and then do the 130-pound dumbbells and run that for 12, and then the hundreds for 15, and just abusing volume from or abusing weight from the volume perspective, and then doing like a drop set of six or doing six and a drop set. It was like, we're doing a lot of weight here on the back end when I'm already fatigued, and that muscle is not what's pushing the weight anymore. And now it's joints. Now it's connective tissues ruining it. So if I almost turn around and try and stay at the same weight and just progressively move that upward, I think that's going to be a much better idea for me with the intention of like, maybe the program says 12 to 15. If that 16th rep is there, I'm fucking taking it. If that 17th rep is there, I'm fucking taking it like every single time. So that's kind of the crux of my idea. And here's the best part about training. If it don't work, change it. The food, like at the end of the day, the food and the drugs are going to push you forward. They're going to push you forward. So if something does not feel good, change it, fix
And
it, do
to
something
kind of
different.
preface what you're saying is, I think, are you speaking on more so specific movement or are you talking total training?
Total training, like you can change out a movement, yes, but you also could just scrap the volume that you had for it, change it, and add or subtract to it.
Yeah. And I will
I,
say there is a partial to it that, you have to learn to train. It's a big portion of it because again, it's all well and good to train push, all well and good to train pull, legs, etc. But if you're not training to the point in which your body's responding to it, at that point you're just wasting your time and just moving weight around to move weight around. Again, if it has to come to the point where you have to back off of the weight completely to learn and relearn how to train that body part, leave your ego at the door. I personally had to do that this past off season where I needed to relearn how to train back because I needed the back. We all know I need more upper body, but my back came up substantially in 6 months' time because I forced myself to relearn and actually learn how to connect with my back. In which that, oh my God, I actually started growing with somewhat of a back. So it's sticking with a training program. Also, like stop program hopping. Oh, you don't see results in a month. Guess what, motherfucker? You're not gonna see results in a month. You have to stay within it. You have to stay in it. And if it truly doesn't work after 3, 4 months, okay, now you can switch up a training program. But just because in 1 month's time you don't see drastic progress doesn't mean it's not working. If it doesn't feel good, that's different. If nothing's working, for the sake of you're not feeling the muscle contracting, you're not feeling anything in the stretch, you're not feeling okay, at that point, yeah, sure, train change it. But if you're visually just not seeing the results that you want, at that point in time, it's you gotta have to you can't program hop just to say like, oh, this wasn't working for me. It's like, was it working for me? Was it not working for me? Or was it not
Was
progressing?
I not working for it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's something that a lot of people I feel, especially in today's day and age, with every optimal training, optimal this, all this bullshit that they don't stick to a plan long enough to see the results because they're impatient. And that's really what's the killer of most.
100%. With that said, like, comment, share, subscribe. We're wrapping this up for Next Up podcast. Thanks for listening. If you thought I was boring and annoying, let us know in the comments. Have a great day.